While I was looking for pictures of the building of my super sucker, I ran across several projects that I've done way in the past that I actually photographed pretty well that I thought would be interesting to show on my channel. Here's one of them I did. It's a slideshow, so let's go. You're watching On the Mark with Mark. This armoire was a project I did a number of years ago. My brother needed a closet, and then this armoire miraculously showed up right in my neighborhood. Now you can see it's out in my garage at this point. One of my neighbors had a garage sale, and I had gone past there on my way home, and I saw this. So I stopped to look at it, and you can see it's in pretty tough shape. And I decided I didn't really want it, but the guy that was there, apparently nobody was looking at it. And, this was after 5 o'clock, and he's like, come on, you got to take this. So anyway, he ended up giving it to me. So I went home and got a furniture dolly, and then I actually rode this thing. I pushed it all the way down our street back to my house, and this is it out in the garage. I'm getting my first good close look at it, and it's in pretty bad shape. I don't think there's any way he could have sold it. You can see all the blistering on the top. This has got water damage, got it circled in red here. It's got, I don't know how many years of scuffs and scrapes on it, but you can see here some of them are pretty deep. A lot of paint's been rubbed off. This thing clearly had a hard life. The back is ripped off of it. You can see where a television has been slid around on the inside. It's like probably had been moved several times. There's general dirt. Okay, now I've got it in my basement shop, and I'm preparing to make a new top for it. I decided it was just too far gone, and it was an important part of it in case plants got set on top of it again. I wanted it to have some real wood. So what I did is I used some plywood and some real wood to band around the plywood so you didn't see any of the end of the plywood. So that's going to be coming off. This armoire was made by a company called Riverside, and I thought it was a fairly high quality product. There is real wood in it. Particle board technically is real wood. It's sawdust board is what I call it. The problem with it, you can see right here in this ellipse, is if it gets wet, it gets ruined. So water must have ran down the back of this armoire at some time, and all that wood is blistered, and a coat of paint does not cover that up. So you've got to do something with it. That's the plywood panel that's going to make up the new top. I didn't have a single piece that was wide enough to do the whole job, so I had to join two together. Now this shows where I have sanded off that blistered area. I went after it real hard with my random orbit sander, and basically I kind of planed it down so it was all back to the same surface as it had been originally. I did that with both sides. It looks like I've maybe put some primer on here. And then that other board that you saw for just a second there, that I decided to put over that blistered area after I had sanded it down. If you look at the door on the front, it's a panel type door, and I was mimicking that same size of a panel. Initially, I was going to frame the whole side in like the door so that it looked like it had a raised panel side, but I didn't have enough of that wood to be able to get all the way around there. And while it would have been a good look, there really was no need to add that to the other parts because the rest of it had not been damaged. So there you can see where that blistered area was. I did do both sides. Actually, I don't recall if both sides were damaged or not, but I did want it to be symmetrical. Now I'm getting the wood, the real wood, put onto the edges of the plywood for the top, and I mitered the corners there. This was some really nice straight grain pine. Like I said before, all of this wood was stuff that I had in my shop already. I didn't buy any wood for this whole project. This is something I've done on several cabinets. I like adding a little backboard to the top. And what that does for you is if a pencil's rolling or you fumbled something and it goes sliding across the top of this armoire, this board will stop it from going to the back and falling off and ending up behind the thing, making it difficult for you to retrieve whatever small thing it is that you just lost. The dresser I had growing up had a board like this on the back of it, and I always thought it was a pretty smart idea. In this picture, you can see I have taken the shelf out that was in there and lowered it. There wasn't enough room for a shirt hanging from where the rod's going to be to fit in there. It would have drug on the shelf. So I had to lower that shelf down. Now there's still room to slide shoes underneath of there. It would have been nice if there was been more room there. But the whole point of the thing was so that my brother could hang his shirts and his pants up in there. So it had to have the right amount of height. Left a gaping groove. These pictures just show where I'm firming things up again, gluing things back together that had gotten loose over the years. This is a nifty feature right here. I've added a shelf in at the front of this, let's call it a closet. Okay, it's an armoire. You can see where the door is. If you're standing in front of this armoire, this shelf is kind of facing away from you. But if you reach your hand in and then pull back, you can set stuff in this area, but it will be completely out of sight. It's a nifty little feature that I added to this armoire. It also beefed up the front edge where the striker was so that when the doors went shut, there was no flex. There you can make out how that's a shelf there. It's not real tall. I put some wood in those grooves. This will get wood filler put in there too, so that that will all completely blend in. That's actually the rod out of the closet that my brother took out of his house so that he could fit a larger bed in the small bedroom that was in his house, which was the reason why he needed this armoire. So that rod there was put in his house in the 20s when his house was built. So very old piece of wood there. I'm using that yellow clamp as a spreader to hold those supports tight on the outside so I can get a good glue joint. Now I've got the back on it. That's a piece of 1/4-inch plywood that I had in stock already. And boy, did that firm up the whole cabinet getting that back on there. I didn't bother to square out the corners because after all, this is on the back. Now here, take a look at this piece of trim. Look how gouged up it is. Now I could have made a new piece to match that, but I decided I could salvage this one. So what I did was I cut a piece of wood that was a little bit thinner than what that groove was, and then I put a piece of wax paper over that piece of wood and then slid it into that groove, and then I crammed as much wood filler down in there as I could because this project is getting painted So wood filler hides a multitude of sins. This is where I'm tightening up the mitered corners of the cabinet. They were pretty loose. So I filled them with the wood filler and then clamped it good. This piece was warped on the bottom. It had some other damage on it too. So I made a new one there, and that got glued and finished nailed on there. There's a second shelf that I also added to the back of this closet. You can see where that hanger is. Every closet has got this back corner that does not get used. It's completely wasted space. And I've added this little shelf to several closets in the houses that I've lived in. And it's just a nifty little place where you can set things and they're still handy. Then you can also see that other shelf, that is the hiding place shelf. Now I've got the back on the lower part of the shelf. Now we're ready for paint. Let's take a short break. Well, the woodworking went pretty well on that project, and next is going to be the painting, and it really starts shaping up now. Back at it, and boom, look at that, it's all painted. This paint was some paint that I had left over from another project. I had about a half a can, and it most likely would have gone bad in the can had I not had a project to put it on. So I'm not going to call that an expense. It was something that I had already paid for. So it took paint really well. I did put one coat of sanding sealer on it. This is the top. It's upside down in this photograph. You can see where that backboard is on it over there on the workbench. Painted the back also. Here's the doors. The sides cleaned up real nice. While this paint was drying, I turned my attention to the hardware. These are the hinges, and you can see that some of the screws there. Everything went through my blasting cabinet, and I got all of the old paint off of it. Even the hardware, all the screw heads are ready for new paint. There's the latches for the door, also sandblasted, cleaned up really nice. I had a can of white spray paint in stock, about a half a can already, and this stuff took paint really well. I didn't get any runs on any of it. Of course, you've got to do the heads of the screws. Now we're pretty much ready for reassembling. There's the screws on here, and I don't know how I managed this, but that can of white spray paint matches that can of paint that I used here. White is a difficult color to match. There's a lot of different shades of white, and this just happened to be a perfect match. I don't know how I got so lucky. So there's the doors in place now, and on there. The top isn't on yet, and now the top is on, so it's just about finished. Probably waiting for it to dry here. These handles are the only thing that I actually bought specific for this project. These came out of the Habitat for Humanity's Restore, so even these are used. I think I paid 50 cents a piece for these. So out of pocket, I had to spend $1 on this thing from my brother. But don't those match nice? They look like they were actually porcelain too. So I thought the white went really well with it. And I don't know if that's brushed nickel or stainless or what it is. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty nice look. And there it is. Both sides open, room for shoes down below. Looks like a closet, and doesn't that fit in nice? He had painted this room and had all the trim done in white, so boy, it matched up really nicely there. So he didn't have a closet for this room after taking out the closet so that he could fit that bed. You can see part of his bed there. Nice looking addition to a bedroom there. That cost me all of $1 and some scrap wood and quite a bit of my time, but I really enjoy bringing something back to life. This was close to going into a dumpster, and look at it now. I mean, it looks like a nice piece of furniture there, and it was needed in this house so that he could hang up his shirts. Has a place for his shoes to be out of the way now too. Side note, this house did get broke into. It wasn't in the best of neighborhoods, which seems to happen. The house was built in the 20s, so it's a pretty old neighborhood. Oh my gosh, 100 years old. Anyway, the place got ransacked pretty good, and the first thing he did was headed for his bedroom and opened up that armoire and reached in behind that little hidey shelf that's in there, and the valuables that he had put in there were still there. They did not find those items, so that was great. I'd like to claim I have that much foresight, but that was just luck that I put that in there. So that actually worked out pretty good. There was a payoff to it. So I was very happy to put this together for my brother, and I know he was very appreciative of it. I don't know if he still has it. I know he has sold this house now, but he's moved several times since then, and furniture has a hard time making it through moves, so I don't know. Thanks for watching.
Well, I'm just finishing cleaning up here in the shop after my last project, and the armoire I thought turned out pretty good. I know my brother liked the thing, so that is a lot of what I like to do in the shop is take something that already exists and put a polish back on it or modify it a little bit. So I want to thank you for watching my video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I post every Monday morning. Thanks for watching. Good.